Hey guys, it's Rob here. So, this is a practice session at Circuit de la Chartre, also known as LeMans. I am driving the McLaren 720S GT3. I am going to be competing in the IMSA multi-class series in iRacing, both the fixed and the open setups. So I'm trying to get used to a car. I did sessions in the Mustang, the Corvette, the Acura NSX, the Porsche. What other car did I do? The BMW, and the McLaren seems to be the most stable. And it really came down to the McLaren and NSX for me. I wanted to try to do it with the Mustang because, well, I own a Mustang, so I am kind of a Mustang fanboy. But I could not get the Mustang to go through a couple areas. So coming out of turn 1 into turn 2, I would lose the rear with the Mustang. When I didn't lose the rear with the Mustang in turn 2, I would lose the rear in the Corvette curves, which is also where I would lose the rear in the Corvette. The Porsche was pretty solid, but at speed down Mulsanne, it was kind of all over the road and really bouncy. The McLaren and the NSX seemed to be the most stable. The BMW, every time I got on the brakes, the car would just swap ends on me. It might be a skill issue, not sure. Maybe I needed to spend more time with the car to learn the car better. But anyhow, I think the decision has been made, and I think I'm going to run the McLaren, as I was getting the most consistent lap times with it. And the other car I used was the Ferrari too. I feel like the Ferrari just wanted to kill me. So that's that. Let's get on with the outlap, and yeah, let's see if we can improve my time from what it was. And full disclaimer, I have not watched any track guide for this race yet, or should I say for this track. I didn't even look at my data from driving the cars. I'm going by feel. I don't know, for all I know, the NSX is actually faster than the McLaren, but the McLaren, like I said, feels more stable and a little easier to drive. So I think for a longer stint, I think the car that's easier to drive will be a little easier on the old mind, if you know what I'm saying. So that's why I think I'm going to go with the McLaren. Yeah. Plus, I love the way the car sounds. It's an amazing sounding car in the sim. So those were the first 2 laps. After I did this session, I did watch the track guide for this track and this car, and I am completely driving the car wrong. And in case anybody's wondering, that it's not an off track as long as I was on the right side of the second bollard. But yeah, I am driving this car completely wrong. Not using the curbing as much as I should. Leaving a lot of lap time on the table. Like this I should have had the car in 5th gear for that corner and not slow down as much. The track guide, the coach that does the track guide for this combination, he barely puts any brake pressure on it. It's just enough to put some extra pressure on the front tires. That's about it. But I'm still learning the track. This track has always been one of my favorites in Gran Turismo, in the original Gran Turismo, and Gran Turismo 2 through 4. Yeah, I think I have 2 through 4. I never got a PS3, so I never went beyond 4. Until Sport on the PS4. But that's neither here nor there, because the track differences between the two are night and day. Yeah, I leave a lot of lap time on the table. Even once we get to my fastest lap, I didn't know I could use as much of this curb on the left side. I could use a lot more of it. I didn't realize that. And I'm also braking into Mulsanne corner way too soon. Even though I think I'm braking into it later, pretty late, but... Or am I braking later than the coach? One or the other. I got the lift and the brake points completely wrong. So I'm leaving a lot of lap time here in this corner as well. My fastest lap time is just under 10 seconds off from the VRS coach's lap. And I've been using, for this, I believe I had the VRS set up in the car. I would have to go and look. But I also tried the Coach Dave setup in it, and I don't remember which one's faster. I'm going to have to go look at data and see which setup was in the car on my fastest lap. But I'll shut up now and get back onto this amazing sounding car. Well, that would have been a new personal best lap time if I didn't mess up the final chicane. But for anybody who may be wondering, or maybe thinking I'm shifting the car too soon, every one of the coaches recommend shifting this car. For the coaches that know this car, they recommend shifting the car when the red and blue indicators are on the dash, not waiting and letting it rev out. They said there's no point in revving this car out. All it does is burn additional fuel that you don't need to burn.
off your fuel. Overall. Into the pits for repairs.
Went a little too wide going through the Corvette corners. Yeah, is what it is. I mean, it's practice. So next lap I know to back the car up a little bit more. One of the things I've also learned in the track guide I watched is going into the first chicane on Mulsanne. I'm braking way too late, getting off the throttle way too late. I need to back the car up a little bit more and turn in earlier for some additional rotation through the corner. I'm also doing pretty much the same thing on the second chicane on Mulsanne. But like I said, I'm leaving a lot of lap time on the corner. I'm leaving a lot of lap time on the table. That's what I was trying to say. So this is actually where I should be lifting off the throttle. Not at the 100 board like I have been, which would be here. Yeah, it just sets you up too late into the corner and you start to turn too late. So it's another point where I'm losing a lot of time.
temperature's falling. It's now 79 Fahrenheit.
What a lap that was. New personal best. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me. If you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. Drop a comment. Let me know what you thought of this video. Oh, and by the way, there we are. 1.5 seconds over my previous lap.